Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. The Belarusian opposition has called for a general strike after tens of thousands of protesters gathered in the capital Minsk for the biggest rally in the country's recent history. The opposition's call for a strike follows industrial action on Friday by thousands of workers at state-controlled factories, a traditional support base for the incumbent president Alexander Lukashenko. In a statement, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, the Belarusian opposition leader in exile in Lithuania, said she was ready to become the country's national leader, claiming victory in last week's presidential election and calling on police to come over to the side of the people. International pressure has also grown on Lukashenko over the torture of protesters in jails and over allegations of vote rigging in the elections, in which he claimed a landslide victory with 80% of the vote. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern has announced the country is to delay its general election by a month due to the outbreak of COVID-19 in Auckland.
I've also been advised that moving to a 7...
Calls have been growing for the election to be moved, with opposition leaders saying it wasn't just and fair to hold an election while an outbreak was underway. New Zealand is in the midst of its first outbreak since eliminating the disease in June. US Congress Speaker Nancy Pelosi is recalling the House of Representatives early from its summer recess in a bid to protect the US Postal Service.
At a time of a pandemic, you would think they'd have a little sensitivity.
The Speaker said late on Sunday that Donald Trump was trying to sabotage the election by trying to block funding to the Postal Service and suppress mail-in voting in November's election. Several states were also considering taking legal action to stop the service being run down to a level where it cannot deliver enough mail-in ballots in November, when almost half the country is expected to vote by post because of the coronavirus pandemic. More than 10,000 protesters in Thailand chanting "Down with dictatorship and the country belongs to the people" have rallied in Bangkok in what is by far the biggest anti-government demonstration since the coup in 2014. The protests were led mainly by students calling for a curb on the monarchy's powers, as well as demands for the departure of the Prime Minister Prayuth Chan-o-cha, a new constitution and an end to harassment of opposition activists. Anger has been fueled by accusations of corruption, the arrest of some student leaders over earlier protests, and the economic fallout from the coronavirus pandemic. International experts and thousands of local volunteers are making frantic efforts to protect Mauritius's beaches and its wildlife from the oil spill by the Japanese tanker which broke in half on Saturday. Mauritian authorities say poor sea conditions make the removal of the remaining oil on the ship risky, prompting concerns over an ecological disaster. Between 800 and 1,200 tons is thought to have leaked into the sea already. Scientists say the full impact of the spill is still unclear, but the oil has already reached exceptional zones of marine life, sparking concern over the long-term damage to the environment. At least 16 people have been killed in an attack by the Islamist group Al-Shabaab on a seaside hotel in Somalia's capital Mogadishu. The Islamist group, with links to Al-Qaeda, stormed the high-end elite hotel, detonating a car bomb and then opening fire with assault rifles. At least 43 people have been reportedly injured in the attack. Clashes have broken out in Mexico's capital, Mexico City, as hundreds of people took to the streets to protest against violence towards women. People are demanding authorities do more to stop the endemic number of female homicides. The clashes started when demonstrators smashed through security barriers erected around the city's monuments, causing damage to landmarks and statues. An average of 10 women a day are killed in Mexico, with an increase of 10% in 2019 compared to the year before. And finally, to the story of a miraculous rescue in India, where monsoon rains have caused widespread flooding. Look closely here and you can see a man clinging to a small tree as perilously strong waters flow past him. Crowds watched on nervously as an Indian Air Force rescue helicopter hovers above. After several failed attempts due to strong winds, the man was eventually rescued, having been stranded for almost an entire day. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.